Does marriage actually make people happier, or that's just a myth?
Marriage does make people happier.
The first few years of my marriage, I sort of struggled. Say I was not even prepared.
A ready support at every point in time, either for the good stuff or the bad stuff.
People who were single were much more happier than people who were married.
When a man is married, he earns more.
If he marries the right one, the right woman will bring out the best in you, so you'll be more challenged to do more.
Accountability, it's a key role when it comes to marriage.
We are joined by three bold, unapologetic voices in relationships, marriage, and society, each bringing unique, thought-provoking perspectives. As we dive into the fiery question, who really benefits from marriage, men or women?
I didn't know the weight that comes with marriage. My expectations did not align with my reality. My husband is a people person, and I had to live with that. I had to learn who he was and just, be able to accommodate. So the first few years of I wasn't happy.
Hi, Dami, Zahra, and Stephen. It's nice to have you guys on the show today. And it's actually a very important topic we're going to be looking at today. I feel like I've actually waited a long time for this, topic because, when I look at happenings in the world and I look at, some data, I kind of want to question, does a man or woman get the same benefit from marriage, or one side walks away with all the benefits? So we're going to be trying to unpack that today, looking at every angle to this subject. So I like to begin with the ladies. What's your view on the narrative of marriage? And I'll begin with Dami, please.
Oh, that's interesting.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Personally, I think the way it was designed, it was made to be a partnership, not a competition.
Okay.
Marriage was supposed to be something that it's a win-win for each partner. You're going into it, we're both getting something out of it, and not, the idea of it has to be, beneficial to one party or the other. That's where I stand in marriage. And if you look at the way it was in the beginning, yes, we have our differences in terms of even the way we're created, in terms of our composition, differences in our roles, even in the marriage. So those differences are there, but they are there to complement one another.
Oh, amazing.
Right. And I'm sorry, I'm going to jump into what Dami is saying as well. If you go back and look at the history of relationships,
Okay.
In the ancient times, relationships were actually more like a social contract where a man and woman got together for economical benefits, where the man would provide and the woman would nurture. And then as time progressed, that evolution happened, and then people started to get together for emotional intimacy. And even as that evolved, now it's more like a spiritual, like what Dami was trying to say, as well as more intimate relationship and more of companionship. So as marriage has evolved, it's also kind of evolved with how humans have evolved alongside the way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, what's your view on marriage?
I'm going to side with them. They've spoken well. And,
Okay.
Once more, thank you for having me here.
All right.
Marriage is a beautiful thing if both the two parties understand the reason why they're going into the marriage.
Okay.
People go into marriages for different reasons these days. I've seen how marriages have, metamorphosized in the past few decades.
Right.
And me, as someone who's been married before as well, I know what our expectations are when we go into marriage. Nobody goes into marriage to have a broken marriage. Mm-hmm. But again, you cannot give what you do not have. When preparation meets opportunity, that's when success is achieved. When people go into marriage without preparing for marriage, the preparation stage, nobody gives a gun to a soldier, just to go into the battlefield. You train them first. Before, same thing, marriage. During your single stage, you're supposed to learn how to be a married person. Don't say, it's good to have fun while you're young and single, but do not just remain that way and say, okay, I'm just going to live my life this way. When I get married, I'll live this way. Okay. You have to live as a married, you have to begin to cultivate that culture. You have to begin to live rightly, dress modestly, things that are expected of a married person. You need to begin to practice it before you go into marriage, and then you can achieve success. And you have to also make sure you find someone whose, mindset, believes, culture, not necessarily culture, but other things align together. Because if these things don't align, that is where you have friction.
You
And that's
know,
where-
you said something very,
Yeah.
very insightful. It seems you want to react to that.
Yes, I want to, because I remembered when I was getting married, I got married quite young at 23. I'm 17 years in marriage.
Wow.
You said
Congratulations.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
really.
something about expectations versus reality. So I feel like maybe I'm jumping the gun, right? But I just wanted to quickly point out that yes, expectations would never meet reality until you actually in
The
the relationship.
Yes.
Because I had expectations when I was going into my, trust me,
Fantasy.
all my fantasies was broken. I was on board, right? So I would like to counter the idea of, yes, you can prepare to some extent. You can read books. You can learn from others' experiences. You can, but then again, the learning even starts from, the marriage in itself. And I believe that's where the word compromise will come. Like, so what's the meeting ground?
Yes.
When it comes to us being married, what's like our no-go area? Let me stop there.
Okay. I still want to talk about preparation because, when you prepare for something,
Yeah.
then you will
Yeah.
actually attain some level of success in it.
Right.
That's like a standard practice.
And
So-
I kind of agree with Stephen. Sorry to
Okay, go ahead.
Because what he's kind of also like bringing up is the whole idea of having pre-marital counseling, which could be beneficial because it at least like I agree with what both of them are saying to like a large extent, because the premarital will set the framework up, and then once you have the framework set up, then you can kind of have all of the lived experience, and then the real issues or conflicts or relationships
but the
start.
question is, can we actually be really prepared for marriage?
Oh, that's
I would personally say it's a yes and a no.
yeah.
Really.
How?
Yes, you can read books. Yes, you can look at life examples of people who have been in marriage, who you want to emulate and say, oh, okay, I like this particular quality or this kind of practice
Okay.
in this home. Yeah, and then go like, okay, I would do the same when I get married, right? You can read books. There are so many resources available to us, to young people that get to get married. You can read books. You can ask questions. That's the whole idea. But then again, the learning also starts, like I said, when you're married. But I remembered that there were a lot of issues that happened in my home in the early years of my marriage that I would remember what the counselor, told us to do.
Right.
And then I'll come
As a
and
reference
say,
point.
As a reference
Yeah.
point. I go like, the marriage counselor said
Said
that.
that.
This is how we should,
So it
and
helped.
Okay.
both of us
It was a
just-
guidance.
Yeah. So you need that guidance. So it's a yes and a no. It's actually a yes and a no.
Amazing. And let's progress further on the show. And I want to also continue with the term benefits.
Right.
What does the term really mean in context of marriage?
What does it mean in context of marriage? So just from a very science perspective, sorry guys, I'm going to bore you guys with some of that stuff. For
It's
some
okay.
but when you kind of get into a relationship with someone, there's a lot of like neurotransmitters being released into our systems, right? So we have like oxytocin, which is like the bonding hormone, which when you have like higher levels of oxytocin flowing through your system, which a partner could bring in, you kind of then start to respond to stressful situations better. So there's actually like research that shows that especially when like a woman has a man holding her hand through something really stressful, she is able to kind of cope with that stressful situation
Vice
a
versa,
lot
actually.
better. Yeah, but there is that whole element of just science and neurology that kind of kicks in. So yeah, it just has like benefits right from the fundamental of us being humans and having connection to like larger benefits.
Amazing. Dami, what do you think? Your thoughts, please.
My thought is going to be coming from my faith. Just quickly, I'm just going to touch on it quickly. If you look at the way it was in the beginning, right? When man was created and there was a gap, and then it's okay, let's make a woman that man, right?
Okay.
To do what? For companionship, for reproduction, for all of those things, right? So the institution of marriage was created definitely by God, because it was his idea. It was he knows the reason why he did that.
Okay.
And so the benefits, it's meant to be mutual. They were both given the same order, or should I say command. They were both given the same mandate. Go and produce, go and dominate the earth, so it was meant to be a partnership. So going into, and that's why it says that when a man finds a woman, he finds a good thing. He that finds a wife
Finds a good thing.
a good thing. So the
Sure.
benefits is immeasurable.
Okay.
And science actually backs everything she just said, because
Amazing.
because if you look at like relationships again, just from a scientific perspective, like men actually just benefit from an existence of a relationship alone, because like when a man, there's like a whole sense of social, like perceived, like men who are married, they're perceived as being more responsible, and hence like that kind
Both
of
ways,
also
actually.
it kind of helps them
Even women
benefit
who are
in that
married,
sense too.
even women who are married, I think, are
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
more respected,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Yeah.
and more valued in the eyes of people. People just put more worth if you're married. I don't know why.
So is it true to say that marriage elevates a person's status?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Yes.
For a
Yeah, that's the
woman,
very nice.
for a woman.
No.
Yeah, but even
please,
for men-
please, I'm going to correct
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
both parties, because the same way you have that instant gratification, the fact that you're married, same way we feel.
Yeah.
Now you have someone you can do life with.
Yeah. The
Come
shared
rain,
experience.
come sunshine,
Yeah.
we're going to do life together. Now, when I talked about having a blueprint before going to marriage, preparing, it's just like a house. The architectural design comes up first before you begin to build. And when you're building, there are a lot of eventualities that will come up that may change your strategy. But already, because you already have a goal where you're heading to, it is easy. And that is why the benefits, for me, outweighs, the bad side of it.
Okay.
So
It
let me
has
paint
more
a
benefits.
scenario. I was raised by my mom, a single mom. We're all 4 girls. And I noticed, growing up, one of the things that I noticed was that she was looking for that covering. See, I totally understand that it's beneficial to both the male and the female. But when it comes to the female or the women, they are always at the receiving end when things is not as it should be. So she raised us, 4 of us, a single mom. But then I noticed all her life, while she was still alive, she was looking for the covering, because society is not supporting the fact that she's a single woman. I don't know if you get
I totally
But
understand.
that might have changed
now.
if you look at what happens today
Now.
in today's
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but let's look further on the show on this subject. Financially, who benefits more from marriage, men or women?
I'd say women.
Why?
Now, this is statistically proven, and they can also attest to that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Now, when a man begins to make money, gets a little money, what he wants to think about is to get a woman who he's going to take care of. That's why men seek for financial stability before they go into marriage. When we get money, who can we spend it on? A woman. Who do we want to spend it on? A woman. But when women get money, they want independence.
What would you say about that,
Not
Dami?
all women. I'm just generally speaking. I'm
Okay.
not saying all women want it, but most women, when they're financially independent, they don't need a man. A man can go into McDonald's restaurant, fast food joint, and see a woman who just appeals to him. And that is where men are hasty in making decisions when it comes to marriage. They just see her. They don't even know what a character may look like, but I just like the way she smiles. I want to marry her. And from the first day, they'll be like, hello, I want to marry you. And they
Okay.
go straight ahead. But have you ever seen a woman who walks up to that same kind of fast food and just meets a man who is serving him or in a gas station and say, oh, I like that man, I'm going to marry him? Never. It's not good to me. They begin to weigh you up. Are you in my social status? Can you take care of me? That's why women need that covering. Even if it is not financially, can you lead me?
Well,
Can you be an example? But
I-
that will come when you know the person.
well, I agree with you
Yeah.
to some extent.
Yeah.
But if you look at it again, Sha, from the beginning, She be God first, he created
Gave him
everything,
a-
right? Before he said he will give him a woman. So yes, women benefit more financially in marriage, but it also depends on that partner.
Yep.
It depends on the person. Personally, I handle my husband's money because he's open and you understand. But I have friends, I have relations where the situation is not the same, right? So it totally depends on the individual. So this question
totally
is
agree with
actually
you.
very, very relative because there are some men that they would have money and they will never spend it on their family. They will not spend it on their home. The wife does not even know how much he's earning, and it's a different story entirely. But if you want to speak, generally speaking, statistically speaking, yes, women benefit more.
But I'm going to kind of
Yes.
continue to disagree with it a little bit more as
okay.
well because, again, just looking at how relationships have evolved over time, now women have also gotten into like the workforce. And so they can also start providing for themselves just like men would provide for them before. So just looking at the current scenario, there's both sides of people that can provide for themselves financially if they need to. And now relationships are more about companionship. So if you look at why marriages might be failing a lot more now, it's like the incompatibility aspect of it is just where I'm coming from. So
Okay, but as we look further on this particular, angle of finances, let's look at some data,
Laws,
with
yeah.
regards to, finances in marriage. Now, a significant research indicates that married men generally earn between 10% and 40% more than single men with comparable backgrounds. Now, this research also points to marriage itself increasing men's earning capacity by 10 to 24%. Now, married male college graduates saw their household incomes rise 56% over several decades, compared to 44% for married female graduates. Now, married couples, regardless of gender, accumulate a much more wealth over time, more than singles. But men's financial trajectory especially rises post-marriage
Yes.
and diverges from unmarried male pairs.
right.
Now, according to that same data, in many households, married women, they actually manage investments and, of course, lead financial decision making and expenditures as well, which can enhance their control and growth of household wealth. About 60% of married women report being the main investment decision makers in their household as of 2025.
Yeah.
Right.
Your thoughts on this, Zahra, please?
Yeah, I agree with what the statistics say because I agree with what it has to say. Also, if you look at some of the laws, just to go into like divorce category, like men usually will have to kind of give up a lot more of their assets,
Definitely.
despite if the woman is working or not. And so, it might be like society might be like a bit more biased towards like men having to play that role of being
Yes,
providers.
They have to be biased.
Yeah.
I've given my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
However,
to nurture and
but
raise
again,
children.
but again, let's be clear on this that
Yeah.
we are proud to do so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If a man has the money to provide, he wants to provide.
Yeah.
No man,
Yeah.
with the way we are set up, we have that we're egoistic. We have that ego in us. We have that pride. We want to provide.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if my wife earns, I
Yeah.
want to be able to provide for,
Yeah.
every other thing.
Got it.
However, there are times when
Yeah.
the life is not
Yeah.
a roller coaster. Sometimes it goes up, it comes down. So
Yeah.
in moments like that, we need to be each other's support system.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is where understanding needs to come in.
Yeah.
No matter if both of them are working,
Yeah.
they can come together, understand each other, know that when you're strong, I am weak. When I'm weak, you're strong. There are times where it's not 50-50. People say, let's go into it, let's do this, let's pay the bills together because you earn so and so amount. No, it's just pure understanding.
But Stephen, I'll ask you a particular question.
Please do.
Do you think, marriage, looking at the data, increases a man's, financial capacity of, earnings? Do you think when a man is married, that increases or rises his finances?
If the
Because
man-
reports are saying when a man is married, he earns more.
If he marries the
More
right
than
one,
when he's single, actually.
if he marries the right one,
Oh.
the right one will build you up.
Yeah.
The wrong one will tear you down.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
The right woman will bring out the best in you, so you'll be more challenged to do more. You'll be more challenged to go further. For example, you put all this together today, the right woman will be behind you, will be behind the camera, will be supporting you. Okay, baby, let's go. What are we talking about next? But the wrong woman will not even be here because she's not even interested in what you do. So at the end of the day, the statistics are correct. However, when you marry the right one, that is when you go up. That is when the blessing you talked about, that the Bible talks about, comes in. But if she tears you down, she'll become a liability. You keep spending, you're not happy, you're depressed, and you're not productive even at work. So it doesn't just affect you, at home. It also affects your productivity.
Okay.
So when you see, I watched a lot of videos, and I've seen where old men always say, if you marry the wrong woman,
Yeah.
they cannot overemphasize it.
Yeah.
So
It's both ways. Though.
it's both ways.
Yeah.
The same way.
Yeah.
No, for a man. I'm talking about men
Yeah.
now. For a man. So if you marry the same way for women. If you marry the wrong man. However, when you're together, you will see errors in your partner. Your partner is not the most beautiful or the most handsome person. So there will always be reasons for you to second guess yourself. Did I make the right decision? There'll be moments like that. That is where it is no longer love. It is more of commitment. It is more of saying, I've made up my mind, come rain, come sunshine, in good times or in bad times, I'm going to stick with you and we're going to figure it out together. Because trust me, even the experts, you're a psychologist, you know that nobody knows it best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are all learning in progress. So it's about the process and not the result. But these days, people are after the result.
I see. Now, because for that young man watching this right now, and of course, he heard me say that married men make more money than single men. You might want to say, okay, Ken, I think I have to get married, so I can earn more, But away from that, it seems you have something you want to
Yeah,
say.
but it kind of goes back to what I started saying in the beginning. Like, married men do have that perception of being more responsible or having to be more responsible. And hence, then once they do get married, they just kind of like enhance that and kind of shine into that role of really being a provider. And maybe that's what like the statistics are sort of supporting.
Humor to what you just said.
Yeah.
There was a day my husband came home and said they went to eat at a restaurant and then they had this sign and say, our waiters are all married men. So what does that mean? So they get to what's this word? They listen to instructions properly. So naturally, yes, the role of being responsible, you have to be responsible. Anyway,
But does marriage equate responsibility?
It's not so black and white, is
Yeah.
it?
It's not
Like
so
it's-
black
So
and
so
white.
how is it
It's
then?
also, but I think there's a level of responsibility that comes to play because now you're accountable. You're accountable to someone.
Yeah.
You don't have your time to yourself. You can't just go home and come home anytime you like anymore.
Back to
Where you're going,
what I
have
said,
to know.
preparation.
Yeah. you
Back to
know,
preparation.
So accountability, it's a key role when it comes to marriage. So that alone is a form of being responsible.
Yeah, and also evolutionary psychology. Sorry, I'm just going to throw a lot of
It's
psychology
okay,
here,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Please, feel free.
But
We-
if you
we're
look at
happy
how
to
we
learn.
evolved as men and women,
Yeah.
just from a science perspective again, men went out to hunt, right? So their sole job was to provide and get flesh, whatever, food for the family. Well, whereas women stayed back in their little caves or went to the meadows and got some berries or whatever just to make sure that there was something to eat in case they didn't come by with hunting. So it's just like our brains were also programmed, or our nervous systems also were programmed just for men to like have to provide and women then to nurture too. So yeah, I guess then marriage also perhaps might trigger that sense of responsibility of providing,
Okay.
which then excels it. And then kind of tying into what Stephen
Yeah.
said, sorry, again, it's all about the quality of the relationship, because if two parties are feeling super supported in that, then there's going to be an upward growth, but if not, then there might be a downward trajectory.
Okay.
So that, when responsibility when you talk about responsibility, when somebody marries because I think it's time, I'm old enough, I'm of age, then you might not be as responsible as someone who goes in like, okay, I'm ready to be accountable for someone, to take care of someone. And that's why the courting stage is there, for you to give an example of what it's going to look like. It's a preview of the entire series.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what it's going to look like. That's why you need to court, understand each other. But that is where most men get it wrong. And most women also. They're quite hasty. They are overwhelmed by the physical, appearance, and they just, I just think it clicked. The way she smiles, it clicked. What about her values? What about your values? Do they align? What about your goals? What about your vision? What about your dreams? Are you ready to support her dream? Is she ready to support yours? There are things to talk about, even finances, even the intimacy part of it. Everything needs to be discussed. Everything needs to be understood. Are we on the same page? What are my boundaries? Are these red flags? If you cross this, I'm done. Even if we're 10 years in, if this is crossed, I'm done. We need to understand, those things. So at the end of the day, back to the benefits, women actually benefit more than men.
Okay. Zahra, I want to say this now, considering what he just said.
Yeah.
If women,
Yeah.
of course, we can see that with what's happening in today's world,
Right.
are financially independent, then what benefits do men actually get from marriage?
What benefits do men get from
Yes.
marriage?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a question for men, but from like a women perspective,
Yeah.
If we're looking for a man, we're looking for then that emotional safety and psychological safety to come in, versus it just being, hey, I'm gonna put food on the table and then you're gonna do all the housework. So that's where the relations have shifted.
Okay, because if you look at it back in the day, or what
Yeah.
what used to be back then,
Yeah.
men used to be the providers,
Yeah.
sole providers of homes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But now in today's world,
Yeah.
women are becoming financially independent.
Yeah.
So now my question is, if that's the case now,
Yeah.
what's that unique benefits that men are getting from marriage?
But like again, I'm going to go back to science, and
Okay.
science says just men benefit just from existing in a relationship.
By just existing.
Existing in a relationship.
Okay.
So like women will then take care of a lot of their emotional needs. So women will act like a stress buffer for men. There's the whole oxytocin thing happening where there's affection and nurture and all of that coming in. It kind of helps eliminate some of the loneliness a single person might experience being a single man. Whereas women will actually have more support systems emotionally than men might have.
So, but apart from that, then what does a woman benefit from the relationship?
When I did,
Because from your point of view, you said the way the men are, being in a relationship means that
Yeah.
we benefit.
Yeah.
And actually, I agree.
Yeah.
Because when we are done from a day's work, we just want to come home and recharge.
Yeah.
Nothing feels better than recharging on the laps of your woman. You put your head and she's just, that alone is relaxing.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
That is actually what we crave most times. But now for a woman, what do you benefit? Like when you see a man, what goes on in your mind? And
so based on what I read,
Okay.
statistically speaking, from the little that I'm able to do, because I don't want to come again from my biblical point of view, but so if I look at it, one of the things men benefit is that they live healthier and they live longer.
Exactly.
Women age fast.
Yeah, it's
because
true.
we have to juggle a lot of things. I'm the one responsible for how my kids. I have 3 kids. I have to be responsible for how I pick them from school, drop them off, make sure dinner is ready. I have to have my home business to attend to. I have my husband to take care of. I have other responsibilities. I feel like the man is just created to do one thing and one thing. Just focus
true.
on work, and you believe every other thing is being taken care. So they live longer. They live healthier. They are wealthier from even just being married, like you said.
You said.
They also advance in their career. I know, I'm using my home as an example. I knew where we started from when my husband earned 60,000 in Nigeria to what we are earning now, right? This is
the growth, the process.
down the line, they are more creative because now they have time to actually focus to pursue, their goals. Why the woman, have to take care of the home. And they also like women, based on what I read, they commit suicide, they're depressed,
There's women.
Yeah.
in
Okay.
marriage because they have to juggle a lot of things. So it's easier for them to fall easily. It's easier for them to age faster. It's easier for us to lose ourselves in marriage. I was having a conversation with a friend some days back. And she
Yeah.
was telling me, since I got married, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore with my life. So men, if you look at, because there's an imbalance when it comes to marriage. I understand that we cannot have everything 100%, even in our personal lives, right? But I always am an advocate for what is called
Quality?
balance,
Balance, yeah.
being grounded.
Mm-hmm.
So in every phase we are in life, there is going to be a time where maybe the career will take, more percentage of your life,
Got it,
or there'll
yeah.
be a case where the children will take more. It's okay. There might not be a balanced equation, right?
Never.
Because life on its own is not even that balanced. But when it comes to marriage, I feel like that imbalance it's more favorable to the man
Yeah.
than the women.
So if you're saying that marriage benefits men more, then why are women getting married? That's the question.
Because I don't think it benefits more. It's the quality of the relationship, or it's the quality of marriage that's actually beneficial for women.
Okay, because Dami was saying that a man when he's married gets a lot of
Yeah, he does.
advantages, and she said something about imbalance. Okay, that the woman, she cited what her friend told a couple of days ago, and all of that. So my question, out of curiosity, is if there's this imbalance in marriage, so why are women still pursuing marriage?
Because imbalance is not coming from marriage as an institution. Like, the imbalance is coming from like two wrong people getting together. If the same two people could create balance within that relationship, they would then be okay and they would grow, and it would be beneficial for both men and women. Because again, it's not like women don't benefit at all from marriage.
That the weight is
Yeah, the mental labor that women have to carry out, which what Dami is saying, is a lot more than what men possibly might have to do if there is an imbalance in that marriage. If the
beg to
man
differ.
kind of
Yeah.
creates that sense of balance and gets more involved and helps with all of this mental load of like kids, school, work,
preparation,
all of
be
it.
more involved in the home.
Yeah, if there's a balance there, then they're gonna be it's gonna be beneficial for both parties.
But I want to take it to the beginning, right? Women are always more ready for marriage than men. At the age of 3, you already have a fantasy of how you want your marriage to look like. At the age of 8 or 10, you see kids, because I work with kids, you see them talking about marriage. I'm like, girls, I'm like, already? Why are you trying to grow up so fast? Slow down. Men at that age, what are we doing, Mr. Ken? We are basically doing men stuff.
Playing video games.
Playing video games,
At some point,
jumping
playing,
everywhere, climbing the trees, doing back in the days. That's what we do. We don't even have time for that. So women grow faster than men, but statistically speaking, mortality rate is more on the men's side than the women's side. We die more than the women. Women live longer than we do. We have more of
I don't think
widows.
so.
No,
Yeah.
you can check it. No, you can check it right now. You can check it on your phone.
But let's talk about something here, because I think the whole angle is all about imbalance now, right?
Yeah.
So if we are saying, because you said something and you said something also about imbalance, should we restructure marriage in terms of policies, in terms of responsibilities, in terms of laws? Should we restructure marriage to create some level of balance?
I was just about to say that actually, because I've been opportune to see some young couples now, and I see how they both do the roles. I feel like there's a lot of noise around women carrying the entire burdens, and the narratives already changing, right?
Yeah.
So you already see, the husband and the wife, they are both taking care of the children. You already see a man staying home to support the wife, and the woman goes to work.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about maybe changing the narrative, I would say yes, the narrative is already changing.
It's already changing, really. Men are more involved than they used to be.
Because if men has to be involved, because where I came from, you see the man, the only thing he does then is just come back home, sit down in the living room, watch TV. They don't even have a relationship with their children.
Yeah.
Then the children will leave home and they don't come back for their parents.
Okay.
You would need to be involved in the life of your child. So it's not a matter of it's only my mom. When you want, I've seen a situation where a child wants to speak to their father, they have to first call their mom, and then the mom will now give the phone and say, "Oh, your dad is here. Okay, speak with him." No. So it's important for the men to also be very involved in what's happening in the home, so that they build that quality relationship. I have 2 boys, and I'm intentionally instilling that value in them, that no, this role, yes, your sister can do, they all do the same thing. So there is no, the cooking of food is for the girls, or washing of the plate is for, every single person. We all have they have a timetable, and they take turns in doing the chores in the house. And I feel like that narrative is already changing.
I think for my own point of view, my mom did a very great job, by the way. 5 boys, so not easy having 5 boys. So I'm the last of 5 boys, so I can tell from how she brought us up, because she only had 2 girls, and she cannot overwhelm 7 kids, so she cannot overwhelm these 2 girls. And so I was age 15 when I started pounding yam. And I'm so good at it till tomorrow. All the delicacies I can cook. So I'm already prepared. That's what I say, preparation. Now, people go in with different ideas into marriage. I want to go and be the Lord. I'm the king. What I say becomes law. That's how people go. There are some people with that mentality. So when you say restructuring marriage, it's very important that it is put into consideration. However, it is going to be difficult. You know why? Social values, cultural values are different. Okay. So what people are, were born with is different from what other people are born with. So exposure also. Yeah. Now, a lot of us have come to Dubai now. There are a lot of things that have changed in our lives since we moved here because of the people from different walks of life that we've met. Yeah. So at the end of the day, marriage can both be beneficial if the 2 people are ready to put in the work that it demands. Some days it will not be easy, especially when you have kids. If you're not, back in the days, we used to say women benefit more. You know why? In the long term. When the kids begin to age, they tend to go towards the mom than the father. But if you're an involved parent,
the present father,
there are things that I teach my boy, because I have a son. There are things I just ask him about his girlfriend. The first time I asked him, he was uncomfortable with it. I said, my boy is okay. If there's anyone who needs to teach you about this, there's no other person better than your dad. That's what we are. But we have to be ready to talk about the tough conversations, because these kids learn fast these days. Yeah. To be involved. School drop-off, most times, back then we see mothers going to drop kids in school. Fathers are nowhere to be found. But if we're involved, both parties will benefit, both parties will live long, both parties will be happier. Yeah. What is marriage? I'm here to serve you. Right. You're here to serve me, not when it is conducive. There'll be times where we are loggerhead, but I'm cooking a happy meal. I'm still going to give it to you. I'm not talking to you right now, but I'm still going to feed you. You're my wife. So looking past, small trivial matters that would not change anything in the long run, that you will overlook at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, if people see marriage from this perspective, that we're here to serve one another in different ways, because her needs are different from my needs.
Yeah, of course.
So I need to be sensitive and pay attention to what she desires, what she needs, how she wants to be loved, not how I think I should love her. Yeah. And same vice versa, how I want to be loved. There are things I would love, not because I like them, but because she loves them. There are things she should also, pay interest into in my life, not because she really has interest in those things, but because my man loves it. I want it to be part of me. So if we do that, you discover that couples do stuff together. Yeah. They will go to the gym together, pull together, party together. Everything that my wife wants to do, I want to do. Everything my husband wants to do, I want to do. They become a team. And that is when you see people that if you want to get to that man, go through his wife.
Okay.
Because they have become a force. And all those trivial matters cannot separate them anymore. Finances cannot separate them anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing explanation. But let me say something in regards to what you said, and of course, you said something very important, which I'm going to be, posing as a question to you, Zahra, because I want to look at it from the psychological perspective.
Right.
Does marriage actually make people happier, or that's just a myth?
Again, it's you're asking very black and white questions again, so it's really difficult to put this down. So I read one study that actually said that people who were single were much more happier than people who were married.
Okay.
Okay. But then there's also this whole other school of data that says that marriage does make people happier. So it's a bit of both.
So from your experience,
From
dealing
my-
with also married people, or dealing with,
Yeah.
adults, dealing with kids,
Yeah.
what do you think?
From my perspective, I do think like marriage does make people happier because, yeah, going back, as humans, we were meant to like build connections. Just our nervous systems are designed in the way that there is safety in numbers. So when you do have someone that you can share and have all of these shared experiences in life with, it's a concept called like capitalization. So your joy capitalizes. So if I got promoted today and if I had someone to share that with, that joy doubles because now there's two people experiencing the same kind of joy.
Okay.
Same
Yeah.
way pain as well.
Yeah, and when it comes to like, if my husband came in and he's like, I lost my job, then I would be the one sitting there and comforting him and kind of speaking to him and listening to whatever his struggles are. And that kind of elevates his stress or his nervousness too. So it's
Like-
kind of
like-
nice to have that shared
It's
companionship.
like a ready support
yeah.
at every point in
Yeah.
time, either for
Yeah.
the good stuff or the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Because there are times that if you're single, you need those support and they're not there.
Yeah.
You now need to crave them,
Yeah.
get them from
Yeah.
people who you may not really want to get them from.
Yeah.
But because you need that thing at that time.
And it kind of
So
also
you can
changes.
be-
Oh, sorry. It kind of also changes as you kind of grow as well.
Okay.
When you're in your early 20s, you have a lot of friends who are single, so you can kind of lie in on them, lean
Yeah.
in on them. But as you get older, like if you touch your 40s or your 50s, then it starts to become like a bit more lonely because everybody's sort of doing their own thing and there's
Starting their own families. and-
Yeah.
Dami, you've been married for 17 years. What do you think? Are people really happier when they are married, or is it just a myth?
If I'm being true, the first few years of my marriage, I sort of struggled. I struggled personally because I would say I was not even prepared. I just sometimes when I discuss this with my husband, I say I didn't. What was going on in my mind, right?
Okay.
And I felt I was not ready. I didn't know the weight that comes with marriage. So my expectations did not align with my reality. My husband is a people person, so the first day I entered into his home, I already had people in the house, so it was really strange, and I had to live with that. I had to learn who he was and just be able to accommodate. So the first few years of my, I wasn't happy. I was never happy. But I remembered I spoke to someone and I said, I didn't know this was what marriage was all about. What's happening? And she told me, no, Dami, you have to find your own happiness. You have to find what brings you joy. It is from doing that you can even be able to give back to the home. And then I realized that there are some things that I enjoy that maybe my husband's not enjoying, or he does not even have the time to, because we're living in Nigeria. He has to leave home as early as 4:30. He's not coming back home until late in the night. And then I started to find myself. So happy comes in marriage when both parties knows themselves, knows what makes them happy, and then they can be able to bring that into their relationship, and then by extension you realize that you're both doing fine. So if I had based my first year of marriage on I'll have left my marriage. I would have felt, I married the wrong man. No, if I look at my latter years right now, I'm at a very comfortable space because I already know who I am. He knows who I am. I've been able to understand who he is. We've been able to align our values. We know this is where we are. Then, yes, we become as you are
I
aging.
think every marriage faces that
Yes.
turbulence period.
So it might
Now-
appear like if you are not happy, and you might not. I think Obama, it was Michelle that was saying
Yeah,
if
she
she
was
was going to
gonna-
weigh
Yeah.
10 years of her married with 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Still talking about something you said. It seems you have something to say. Actually.
No.
Okay. Now, but let's look at the fact that some people, with reference to what you said, when they start off the journey, the marriage journey, there's, I call it the storm stage.
Yeah.
Okay, there
Storm
seem,
stage, yeah.
seem to be that time when it's all not rosy.
Yeah.
But let's look at something here, which statistically women initiate most of the divorces, because at that time when it's
70%.
all not rosy, they're like, I want to leave. Okay, so does that actually prove that men are happier in marriage, than women?
Just going back to what we've been talking about as well, it's always the quality of the relationship for women. If women if a woman is feeling like she's carrying all of that mental labor, she's not going to want to be in that relationship, because it just feels like she's not getting anything out of that companionship, and it's just becoming more and more stressful for her. So
Well, why do we think that is a problem, though? Why is that a problem, rather? Because now, I just think in relationships, people really do not listen to understand. They always listen to respond.
Yeah.
Now, somebody might be saying something in a different way. If it doesn't even align with your beliefs, there are ways to go about it to get the same result. So everything that brings a fight in a home can actually be approached differently, and we get a different result.
Yeah.
So you can force the horse to the river, you can force the horse to drink from the river.
can I come in?
Please come
Okay.
in.
Men are hunters, right? So
Okay.
when you have a woman in the house, they believe, finally, I've made it.
Yeah.
And then you know what you guys do? You relax. Right? So I was
That is from your point of view when you say relax.
From my point of view.
Please,
So
because
you-
there are a lot of
then-
men who put in the work day by day,
True.
and it's not, reciprocated. Any relationship
Yeah.
where there is no reciprocity, either for a male or female, is heading for doom.
Stephen, you
Yes.
said something about you love based on the needs of your partner, right? So there could be a scenario where
Like you pay attention to the needs.
I think I didn't get that.
Like loving their hobbies, so that at least you can do them together.
What I wanted to say, what I actually wanted to point out there,
Yeah.
one of the things that sort of I usually have disagreement with my husband with is he thinks this is what I love, and that's not what I love.
True.
Yes, you mentioned something about
Yeah,
listening
to
to
understand,
to
really.
understand. So men tend to assume that because you love to drink water, why is she not comfortable with drinking that same water? Why does she want more? But that's not our formation as women. So I feel like the happy that you're trying to talk about here is still coming from that listening to understand.
So
But
so
again-
the happiness in that marriage is dependent on the quality of the marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the quality
Quality, yeah.
of that marriage, of
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
the needs of your husband or your partner.
Partner, yeah.
Both
Yeah.
ways actually. So once you can be able to know, because I'm going to use myself as an example again. Thank God for the kind of relationship I had with my husband, or that we could communicate, openly, and I would say, I'm not comfortable with this, and be like, but I was thinking in this direction. Then I said, no, this is how, sometimes we joke and say, what if how you want to be loved is going to kill you?
Yeah.
I said, let me get there first.
Okay.
If I see that it's going to kill me, I will step back. But this is how, I want, or this is my expectation, or no, let me not put it that way. This is what I'm thinking. This is my own line of thinking. I actually don't want to lose my line of thought here, but what I wanted to say is, most times, the women tend not to be happy in the home because the men hardly listen anymore when they are already in the home, because they just assume I've given her everything. The strange thing, because even from outside, people will look at you and go, you have everything. You have a good home, you have money, you travel, your kids are, what are you looking for?
I totally agree with you. What if women communicate their desires better? What about that? Because most times women assume that we're supposed to read the energy. We're not mind readers. You can speak, you can attest to this, you're a man. Most times women will be like, why can't you know? Why don't you understand? Men are just one focus. We cannot multitask the way women do.
Just coming from a place where I work with a lot of couples having the same conflict that we're talking about.
Yes.
A lot of times I feel like women are actually saying what they
don't
want.
Listen.
And men are not listening.
Okay, let me come in here.
They don't listen.
Because if I want to talk about my own experiences, with relationships and all of that, at some point, when you're talking to a woman, okay, I think she feels like you should literally understand everything I'm saying, okay? And also, if you want to look at the fact that he said something very important here, men are not mind readers.
They're not.
No, sometimes if I look at my experiences, she would expect me to know what exactly is happening, but I don't know. You're not talking, are you? So it's expected that women should communicate more. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what you want. I'm not supposed to figure that out myself. I'm no machine, right?
And that is why, you see, that is why it looks like we're forgetful. Men don't remember dates, moments, some special moments. You remember the first time we met. You even remember what I put on. That part of my life is far gone.
You remember anniversaries? 3
Anniversaries,
months anniversary, 6 months
and
anniversary.
You want to hold that account. So if you know how men are wired, this is what I would suggest. If a woman always, when women are looking for advice on how to treat their men, they ask other women. So that should not be the case.
Women.
If I want to know about a woman, I would ask a woman. It would better help me to understand. Because if she says the same thing my wife is saying, if it's somebody who has gone ahead of me, like now you're 17 years in marriage, if I'm just like a year old in marriage, I know you've seen more stuff than I've seen. So I can ask you about how to understand my wife. Right. You may help me understand those little things that she's saying that I cannot see. The same way, if you want to understand a man, do not ask your friends about it. Ask other men. Especially your dads, if you still have them in your life. But if you're not fortunate to have your dad in your life, somebody you look up to, ask him. That is how you're able to understand how men think, because we are wired differently.
Okay.
It's really interesting that you say that. Sorry, I just have to throw like a quick science fact in here. But again, coming back to what I was saying earlier, like men were hunters, women were gatherers, right? As hunters, when they went out to hunt, men spoke to each other like, hey, what's the problem? How do we fix it? Because if they were yapping away, animals are running away, nobody's getting food, they're dying. But women, on the other hand, spent like a lot of time walking around the fields, plucking their berries, and would describe things in like very vividly, right?
Amazing.
So when men are talking to women, or when men are listening to women, they're like, what's the problem? How do I fix it? What's the problem? How do I fix it? And then to women, that's coming across as like I'm saying this to you, but why are you not listening? Because if you don't listen to everything I have to say, you're going to go get the poisonous berry from there and we're all going to die. So you have to let me finish my entire, what the psychologist calls a meadow report. So what men actually need to do is just kind of, when the instinct comes in to be like, this is how we're going to fix the problem, or like, how do I fix it? It's just about to like step back, pause and be like,
be in the moment.
Okay.
Listen, and it's really frustrating for men to do that. Like,
you
Ken's
know,
already just
because I was going to say something about men are natural fixers. They're fixers.
Yeah.
You're telling me something. I'm looking for a solution immediately.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want to,
dwell in the problem.
You know, right?
we
want
to move ahead.
You
need to cook it. You need to marinate it.
Amazing conversation.
Because if you don't cook and marinate, you're going to get the poison, and we're all going to die. So you just need to listen.
Amazing. So as we actually move further on the show today, let's look at something because we're trying to wrap up anyways. But who feels lonelier without marriage? And I'll ask you first because you're a psychologist. Yes. Who feels lonelier without marriage? Men or women? And why? And why?
Very controversial, but I'm going to say men.
Why?
Why? Because I feel like women will kind of build like a tribe of their own and have like that emotional support. But men may or may not necessarily have their tribes to have emotional conversations. Sorry, just because if you're like, hey, how was your day? It's like, yeah, I saw a fancy car. And that's the kind of interaction men might have with other men. But women will go like dwell deep and then kind of have that stress buffer happen there. So that's me.
If you say loneliness, I think that is why so many men tend to live a kind of lifestyle that is not favorable to the women because we're trying not to be lonely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But again, you know, they always say, I'm not of this school of thought, but they always say, I think I lost track of my thought. They always say, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, okay.
So for men, when they're in that zone, they can take impulsive action. I like this lady, she's fine, they will go for that lady because they're trying to feel that loneliness. She's not available today, I don't want to be lonely, I don't have the patience for her to come back, I'll go for that lady. So that when this one is not available, this one is available. So I can totally agree with the fact that men are more lonely, but we will not agree.
Why do you think so?
Because we can we are hunters. Because it brings out the hunting part of us.
Okay.
But for them, you can see a woman who will say, I've been celibate for 8 years. I've not been with any man. I'm waiting for the right one until I see the right one. While we're looking for the right one, we will test the battle.
Okay, amazing. But let's look at something very important here because we cannot have this conversation without looking at sacrifices in marriage, which is, I think that's a major conversation or angle to this topic of marriage. Who sacrifices more? Do women sacrifice more? Do they make bigger sacrifices compared to that of men in marriage?
Should I go first?
Yeah, if you wanna.
Okay. Women, we cannot compare because our roles are different.
Yeah.
If you want to see what our roles are as sacrifices, then the women have it. Because we cannot birth a child into this world.
Okay.
They can do that. So that fact alone.
It takes two to tango.
No, it takes two to tango, but when it tangles, the man can decide to be absent.
Yeah.
Now, I always say the people that are here today are the ones the mothers wanted to keep. Because if she does not want, she will not even tell you in the first place. If she doesn't want to have your child, she can do it without you knowing. So the fact that you made it here is because your mothers wanted to. And a lot of people will not be around if the fathers had their ways. They will say, no, I'm not ready for this. Let's get rid of it. You know. So that is why you see that women sacrifice more. Because when you decide as a father not to be there, because their fathers are not dads, if you're not there as a man for your kid, definitely the woman most times has no choice than to tend to that child, to sacrifice, lose, herself just for the sake of that child. Now, men who are responsible in marriage are the ones who tend to sacrifice more, who would sacrifice even their happiness. They're in a bad marriage, things are not going well, but they will stay there. And that is where women get to a point, when they get to their threshold, they'll be like, no, I got to go for my sanity. But men will stay there, and that is why we die younger in marriage than women. In marriage, when there is no violence, when there is no abuse, in marriage, you can check it, men die younger.
Dami.
Yeah, go. He's looking at you like
I'm looking at Dami because when we look at sacrifices in marriage, I will speak from my perspective, and I want to draw some scenarios from my own perspective, my own experiences. I'm born into a family of 6, all twins. I'm a twin. So I saw my mom sacrifice her education. I saw her sacrifice her freedom so we could have a stable family. Okay, I lost my dad at 16, so that made it worse. She had 6 kids, all twins, to cater for. So when a woman actually, and this is up for debate here, when a woman, gets married, she gets to pause her life. Sometimes education, career.
During childbearing.
First things first, she's gonna have like at least 9 months pregnancy. Maybe
With the
she
stress
works. She's
and
gonna work maybe
everything
till
that
like
comes
6
with it.
months.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to wait after childbirth 1 year or 6 months. Sometimes 5 years. So,
Yeah.
but the narrative I'm trying to also point out here is, okay, let's say she's pausing her career, her freedom, her life to raise a home or to actually build a home. If that's the sacrifice she's making, what is the sacrifice that the man is making that could equate to that? Probably the man is providing, and this is up for debate. We can all say our minds here. Probably the man is also giving up his happiness. He has to do a lot of jobs. He has to cut out a lot of things just to make sure that, the marriage is well. So if you look at what women give in marriage or what they sacrifice, let's look at it side by side. What do you think, Dami, please?
Yeah, the truth is, I think you said it. You're able to nail the point actually, and I would say this from the truth is, yes, it looks like the women sacrifice more, and I would think this happened immediately after the fall of man, where the Bible said something about the desires of the woman will be that of her husband. Initially, it was not supposed to be so. It was supposed to be like a partnership.
Yeah.
But immediately after sin happened, the fall happened, then the desire of the woman became that of the man. So it means that everything. That's why you would see a girl at 5 years or 3 years old, and she's already dreaming of what marriage would look like. So we're created at that point for, marriage. I have to be married. I have to settle into a home. But when we look at the weight, yes, in all fairness, the sacrifice comes both ways. Because if you look at it, I've seen my husband sacrifice so much just so he could give us a certain type of lifestyle. He is the kind of person who would wear one jeans for 5 years and care less, right?
As long as my family is fine.
It's fine. He would give his children everything, give me everything, and he's just fine.
Work extra hard just to make sure.
And he's fine. So if sometimes I look at him, I go, how do you, even me, that is
Stress level, cool. How do you do it?
So as much as I can, even as a wife, I try, my best to just help him.
Compliment.
Yes, just help him take off the little bit of weight.
Right.
Like the little, so I make the environment of the home, okay, welcoming for him to come home too, and just say, okay, I'm home, I want to relax. So, but when we now look at it statistically, if you look at it in terms of the worldly scenarios, yes, the woman gives more, right? We change our names just to be married. We lose our bodies. It's not all women that are lucky to be seated here and looking sweet 16.
Definitely.
I have friends
Who put in hard work and yet they're not getting the result.
and they just grow big. They can't even control it because it's hormonal. And then you see society will judge them.
Yeah.
The husband will pull them down because she's no longer looking the figure, that he met when they were cutting. So she will sacrifice her body. And I'm telling you, to raise one child, it takes 5 years. So now imagine having 3. That's 15 years of a woman's life and still counting. We're having a discussion one of the days, and somebody was saying that which is more? Is it the childbearing or the nurturing? Every woman in that room screaming is the nurturing.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be a part of our life till my last breath.
Yeah.
They are my children, right? So till I breathe my last breath, I would always worry about them. I know how my mother-in-law still calls to check in on us. I don't have my parents, so my husband's parents, so I know that level of attention she still gives into my home to say, hope you guys are well, what's happening. So the sacrifice is still there. Yes, women gives more, but then again, I'm going to go back to, if you get to marry the right person. I finished with a certain level of degree before I got into the home. While I was nursing, my husband insisted I go back to school, insisted I get a second degree, insisted that, and I did all.
And he was supportive all the way.
Supportive.
So-
So it's about, yes, it took a lot from me, but it also because I also wanted it. So I had some women actually, they will get married and go like, because I've given birth, I'm not doing anything.
But let me tell you, do you know your behavior at home, according to what you've said, will even motivate your man to do more. Because you understand his pressure and you're able to say, babe, don't worry about this, I got this. I know this is heavy, I'm going to help you with this. Oh, babe, I know this work is too much for you, I'm going to start waking up early. I'll bath the kids, you can, while you're preparing for the meal. So that's when I say it's a teamwork. You know, the way we act at work, if we can act in marriage like that, most marriages will be peaceful.
Okay. So we are looking to wrap up, but I cannot leave you guys here without having a particular conversation, which is feminism. Okay. What has feminism done to marriage? Okay. Can we have that conversation? Does feminism have a positive impact or negative impact on marriage? Okay. And if, feminism is the order of the day now, does it benefit marriage in any way? Men, do they benefit from marriage in a world where we have active feminism?
Let me hear from the ladies.
I don't know, I kind of feel like the question is flawed. This question is kind of flawed for me because we're kind of looking at feminism like it's a bad thing, like it's taking away the rights of men. But it isn't taking away the rights of women, it's just, of men, sorry. It's actually kind of trying to create a society where there is more sense of equality, where women are now speaking up for their rights. But that doesn't mean it's kind of
devaluing or downgrading the man's right.
So
if for me as well, feminism is something that people tend to taint differently.
Yeah.
And that's what is confusing the world today, because people have different views that are so wrong. I support the women power.
Yeah.
You need to empower women, because when a woman is empowered, she's able to be more productive even at home, even in a marriage.
Yeah.
But if you say, but people now want to make it look like empower women so that they can decide to leave as men if they want to be single, if they want to be independent, if they want to, live a different kind of life. So that is a different mindset for feminism. But if you look at it from, okay, woman now has a role to play, and her role is being acknowledged and respected, it'll be different. We'll all not be having the rate of divorce that we have today.
Dami, does feminism make marriage more appealing for men or women?
I don't even buy the idea of feminism anyway, personally, because I feel like whatever it is you're advocating for, you're saying that the society or the man has that power. They hold the power to who I am as a woman. No, they don't.
That's
they complement the power.
So because I already know who I am as a woman. I know my functions, my roles. So I don't need to demand that from the society or from men. So when we come up, I feel like it's coming from a school of thought that I am yet to understand, because we all have our different roles.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Cat.
Stephen, it's been an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Dami, thank you for your gentility and thank you for your experience. Been married for 17 years. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And Zahra, the psychologist, thank you for all your scientific, data and explanation. It's been an amazing time having you guys here.
So
and it feels like I should have a part 2 actually.
Yes.
It feels like it,
we can be here for the next couple of hours.
It feels like this. So thank you all for sticking with us up to now to be part of what we do here and for the conversation we've actually had today. Today we had to peel back the layers on one of the most controversial questions in marriage. At the end of the day, there may not be a single answer. What's clear is that marriage means different things, depending on the cultural expectations and experiences. I am Ken, and this has been Fused with Ken podcast. If you enjoy the conversation we actually have here, kindly subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment, as your support is really appreciated. Thank you so much. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.